Welcome to another episode of the Whiskey House Pub House Single Review. My name's Dylan, and this is McGimmick 15-year whiskey. Let's get into it. All right, so this is actually from Crowded Barrel. If you're not familiar with Crowded Barrel, originally it was Rex and Daniel that founded the distillery down in Texas near Austin, and obviously they founded two extremely successful whiskey YouTube videos, Whiskey Vault and then the Whiskey Tribe. And then from that spawned the Crowded Barrel Distillery. They do a lot of cool stuff. And if you're a listener, I'm sure you have listened to us talk about Crowded Barrel before, so you know that I have a fond affection for the brand and all the things that they get up to in the shenanigans. But they also do a lot of fun experiments. And well, this one's probably one of the more typical ones that they have done. This is actually a 15-year light whiskey from MGP, finished in Chardonnay barrels. So the MGP mash bill for this is 99 corn, 1% barley. The light whiskey has to be either aged in uncharred barrels, oak barrels, or used barrels. So you can't do a new char oak barrel like you typically see in bourbon or rye. So that's kind of the differences between that. Now, what you get from that is a typically lighter profile. These are distilled at a higher proof off the still, typically column. So it strips a lot of the heavier flavor compounds from it. Typically, it was something that was trying to compete with the clear spirits gaining popularity back 60s, 70s, and into the 80s. It was kind of the answer for vodka when brown spirits were starting to lose popularity. And for some reason, that's kind of what they came up with. They thought that was going to work, but it doesn't mean that it's bad, though. So let's open this up. Now, another popular light whiskey that is being released is by Cat's Eye Distilling. I believe they're also sourcing or did source MGP light whiskey. And I believe I have one that's at cask strength and it's about 14 years old. So you do end up getting flavor from the wood, but it's not the same impact derived from bourbon. Ooh, but 15 years still gives you quite the impact of flavor. And those Chardonnay barrels, I can't remember if I've had a Chardonnay wine. Probably haven't, but the nose on this is so rich. It also could be coming from the fact that this is 60% alcohol. The label's kind of an interesting story. It highlights a single grain whiskey. So what this bottle is harping or calling back to is the Scottish styled grain whiskeys that they commonly use in their Scotch blends. So such as like Dewar's or Johnny Walker, those use a base of grain whiskeys. So you can think of it as it's kind of whatever there's the best prices. They don't typically stick to a certain grain. They're very much price conscious. So in that reason, corn's a very, very cheap, relatively speaking, in the comparison of barley, especially when you get into the subcategories of barley too. So corns can be more cost effective. And so they're creating a lot of whiskey for cheaper than single malt Scotch whiskey. And then they'll use that as the base of the blending profile. And then they would take, multiple single malts and add it to that base of grain whiskeys. So, and this is, like I said, this is kind of a highlight to the Scottish style of the single grain whiskey. And it's something that I believe has never been really done on the American side of it. And they say that too. So I'm kind of reflecting what they're saying. But it's a very cool thing. And there's a podcast episode from Whiskey Lore, I believe, where he interviews the master blender from Dalmore, Sir Robert Patterson. And if you've ever seen on YouTube a couple of years ago, I think it was going around the internet, of the guy that would take his whiskey and just spin it out of the ground. I have way too much whiskey to do that. It would ruin the floor, but but he's quite the character. Going back to that, what he was saying is apparently, if I'm remembering correctly, they use a base about 70% of a grain whiskey. So you can think of it as an American styled light whiskey. And then they would round it off with about a 30% single malt ratio, and then, tweak it there and, get their flavors to where they want. So that percentage will change, but it's kind of a rough estimate. So go check that out if you like Scotch whiskey. And Whiskey Lore is a great channel too. I just got shown that podcast too. So shameless shout out. All right, the nose. It kind of has this little ash note that goes in between the other smelling senses. But a lot of people, or not a lot of people, I keep saying that. The thing I've always thought about, and I think it was from an episode of the Whiskey Vault where Daniel was talking about, he kind of pictures a, as many detectable notes as there are, those are represented by a single wave. And if you think of it as a different color and they're different waves, they kind of go up and down, and some points they intersect and cross over. But there's usually, you can always kind of detect a few of those, maybe 3, maybe more, depending on the whiskey and depending on the person. But for me right now, I'm visioning that, and I'm getting one of those lines is very ashy, and it's just threading straight down the middle, and there's a bunch of these other notes crossing that very subtle ash note. This is not peated, by the way. Not, a lot of people, when they hear ash or something, they think peated, but nope. But it's kind of like not a strawberry, more of a dark grape, I suppose. The waxy skin of that grape. Maybe an apple would be better, but sometimes I get, waxy grapes. The purple ones, not the green. Apparently there's a very big difference between like the grocery store grapes and like the traditional wine, style. I've never had one to eat, but the proof is it's not shocking my nose, but it's definitely there. It's got a little pepperiness to it that I'm associating from the alcohol. Let's taste it. Yeah, it's got that barrel impact, I think, is that ashiness. Oh man, it's like a jelly. It's like whole wheat toast with the little seeds in there. Toasted to, it's starting to char brown on the outside. And you hit that with a combination of strawberry and grape jelly. And man, that's pretty good actually. You definitely, the oak impact is very high. It's very woody. There's not a lot of spice, brown sugar notes coming from the wood. It's more just a very present oak. A little bit of bitterness to it. but it's quickly overshadowed by the wine finish. I really like it. I don't have any water really on me. I would add some water to it, but next time maybe. That's super cool. Yeah. You probably can't get your hands on this, and if you could still, probably only be able to get it at the distillery, and I believe it was around $150. So you might not like that, but to me, it's fun to explore. Definitely get it at the bar. Oh yeah, that's fantastic. I love it. That's going to do this episode. I didn't say it at the start, but my name's Dylan. This is Whiskey House Pub House. Thanks for watching or listening. However you're getting this content, please follow us on whatever platform you're on. If you're on YouTube, leave us a comment, follow us, subscribe, do whatever. Leave us a review or something too. Join us next time for another episode of the Whiskey House Pub House. Thanks for watching.